Hello everybody, hope you're having a wonderful day, and this is lesson number 28 in our dive into the wonderful world of musical theory. And this lesson is actually coming from one of the mistakes I made. I briefly forgot to talk about this in my major and minor scale video, so I thought I'd just address it here. And that is the idea of descending scales. Oh, my handwriting is getting worse and worse as we go along, huh? Descending scales. So, of course, we know what descending scales are. So you can go from a lower version of a note to a higher version of a note following a scale, right? Maybe C major scale. So as hopefully you know by now, C major scale is just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. We've been using this example quite a bit in our major scale video, but regardless, we can always figure that out. It doesn't matter, right? This is the C major scale. If you want, you can confirm that. And I can go from a lower C to a higher C and go through all the pitches in between. That's in ascending scale, because I'm going from low to high. Each subsequent pitch is higher than the previous one. It's called an ascending scale. I'm ascending in pitch, right? And we've already learned about ascending scales long back. I think in the third lesson when we talked about the chromatic scale. But from that video, you would also know that there is a descending scale, right? Where instead of going from a low version of C, I go to a high version of C. I come back down. I go from a high version of C to a low version of C. Right? So I'm going from this to a low version of C and follow the pitches back in that order. So just like in the chromatic scale, I could go ascending and then descending as well. In a major and minor scale, you can also go ascending and descending. Both work. So today I wanted to give some examples about descending major scales and minor scales, just so that it's clearer to everyone what we're talking about. So let's take G major scale for an example. Now let me write out the blueprint for a major scale right here. So we start off, and we learned about this in my major scale video. So if you're kind of fuzzy with what a major scale is, I encourage you to go watch that. So we start off with the tonic, then we take a tone to get to the next note, we take a pitch, then we take another tone to get to the next pitch, then we take a semitone to get to the next pitch, then another tone, then another tone, then another tone, and then a semitone. Once again, if you don't know what these are, the tones and semitones, I encourage you to go watch my previous lessons. But that being said, this is the blueprint for a major scale. So you start off on the home note, which is called a tonic, and then each subsequent note is defined by jumping a specific interval forward. This is what we've read about, right? So that being said, let me use this to make a G major scale. We've already done this, but let's do it again anyways. So once again, in a G major scale, my tonic is going to be G, right? And I'm sure that's pretty obvious. So we start on G. Okay, I encourage you to pause the video and try this yourself, by the way. So I'm going to continue doing it. Now the next pitch is going to be a tone away from G. That's going to be A, right? I'm skipping A sharp and going, so it's A, right? So I'm skipping G sharp and going, slip of tongue here. So a tone from G is A. Then I need to move another tone, and that's going to be B. Now I'm skipping A sharp and going to B, right? Now I need to move a semitone, so that's going to be C. So there's no B sharp or C flat, right? There's no pitch in between B and C, is more accurate way to say it. So I don't skip any pitch, then I just go to C. So great. Then I move a tone, which will be D. Once again, I'm skipping C sharp. Then I move another tone, which is going to be E. I'm skipping D sharp or E flat, whatever you feel like calling it. And then I move another tone. So it's tone, tone, and another tone. So a tone from E is not F, my friends, because remember there's no pitch in between E and F. It's F sharp. So here I'm skipping F. Remember, there's no E sharp / F flat in between E and F. No. So you use E and you go to F sharp. Great. And then you move a semitone, and a semitone from F sharp is just G. So as you can see, we've come right the way around. But this, my friends, is an ascending major scale. This is an ascending. So if I play this on the piano, you'll immediately figure out. So I start on a low G and I go to a higher G. So let's just figure that out. So it's G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Once again, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Now here's the thing, I can also come back down, or I can also go from a higher version of G to a lower version of G. And here's what a descending major scale sounds like. I first want to play it for you so that you get an intuitive understanding. Then we'll discuss how to write one. So I start with G and I go back G, F sharp, E, B, C, B, A, G. Once again, G, F sharp, E, B, C, B, A, G. I'll tell you if I'm missing ones. So as you can see, it just sounds like a major scale going down. So I can go up and come back down. So the descending part of it is something I haven't covered. Now, the way to write it, the descending scale is literally just the opposite order. So you start on the higher G and then you go back to the note just before that in the major scale, the pitch just before that, it's going to be F sharp, then you go to E, then you go to D, then you go to C. And because remember, in a descending scale, each subsequent pitch has to be lower than the previous pitch. So the way to write a descending scale is just, so the descending scale on G, as I said, is just going to be G, then I go F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, and G. So it's just the reverse of this. So let's say you're asked to write a descending scale. How would you do that? Well, there are two ways to do it. The first is, and of course, like with time, this just becomes natural. You know it immediately. But for now, there are two ways to do it. The first is to use our friend the major scale blueprint, right, and write the ascending major scale for that tonic. Let's say they've asked me to write the G major descending scale or descending G major scale, right? So I'm going to use this and write first the regular, the ascending G major scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Then I'm just going to use that and invert it and just go the opposite order. So I'm going to, I'm going to go down now. I'm going to go G, then I use the F sharp, then I use E, D, C, B, A, and we come back to G. Right, so that's the first way to do it. You write out the regular ascending major scale and you just go in the opposite order. So instead of going, you start on high G and then you just follow it backwards. Same thing, go backwards. That's all that there really is to it. So as you can see, this is just a backwards version of that. So it's G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. Just follow it from right to left this time. G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. Now, so that's the way I recommend you do it, by the way. So you figure out the regular major scale, which is going to be the ascending major scale for anything, like maybe it's D major or E major or whatever. You figure out the regular, normal major scale, and then you just invert it. You go backwards. You count backwards. So G, F sharp, D, E, D, C, B, A, G. Right? It should be relatively obvious from this point of view as well. So this is the way I recommend you do it. Now, for those of you who want another way, there's another way, but it'll confuse you, right? And it's not a good way to adopt. But what you could do is instead of theoretically, instead of inverting the scale itself, you could invert the blueprint. So instead of inverting the scale itself, you could sort of, a lot of people would do this. They go tonic and then they go semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone, tone, and then that's it. So what I've done is instead of figuring out the regular magic scale and then inverting that, I just invert the blueprint. So you can think of this as being this blueprint for being a blueprint for the descending magic scale. And if you follow this, let's just follow it once. So I start on G, then I need to go semitone. This is below, so this is not higher but lower. If you invert it, it's going to be F sharp, then a tone lower than that is going to be E, then a tone lower than that is going to be D, then a tone lower than that is going to be C, and a semitone lower than that is going to be B, then a tone lower than that is going to be A, and a tone lower than that is going to be G. So here you're going that much lower, and as you can see, we get our wonderful friend the G descending major scale. It's right here, same. And you could do this, right? You could use this blueprint instead of that whenever you are after a descending major scale and just go lower by that much. I don't recommend you do this, however, because it will confuse you and it's a roundabout way of doing it. You don't need to do this. No, what I recommend you do is whenever you have to write a descending major scale, or you have to get +1 or whatever, whenever you want to write a descending major scale, use the blueprint, write the regular ascending major scale, and then just follow backwards. It shouldn't be that hard, honestly. So let's do one more example before I end the video. Again, I should have just talked about this in my scales video, but yeah, I just wanted to tell you that a descending major scale and minor scale do exist, and just give you some practice on how to write them. So let's try the D major scale, and let's say I've been asked to write descending, D major scale descending. So you could use this, as I said. I'm not going to use that, however, because I don't recommend you use that either. It's just a roundabout, confusing way of doing it. so I don't recommend you do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the major scale blueprint, which I'll just write again, I suppose, the major scale blueprint, and write the regular ascending major scale, and then just invert it, go backwards to figure out the rest of it. So let's use this and figure out what a regular D major, an ascending D major scale is. So start on D, which is the tonic, then we move a tone ahead, which is going to be E, then we move another tone ahead, which is going to be F sharp, again for same reasons as last time. There's no pitch in between E and F, so the tone ahead is going to be F sharp. Then we move a semitone, so a semitone from F sharp is just G, then we move a tone, which will be A, then we move a tone, which will be B, then we move another tone, which is going to be C sharp, and then we move a semitone, and that's going to be D. So we've got D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. So that's the regular ascending major scale, but as you might remember, I was asked to write descending major scale. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm just going to follow the reverse order. So I'm going to start on D, then I'm going to go C sharp, then I'm going to go B, then I'm going to go A, G, similarly F sharp, E, D. And if I play this, what I've just written now, the descending D major scale, it sounds just like a descending D major scale for whole. So I play D, C sharp, B, A, G, F sharp, E, D. So yeah, that's all there is to it. And as you can see, that is a descending major scale. It's correct. And what I did was I figured out the regular ascending major scale and I used that to write the descending major scale. That's what I recommend you do from now on as well. Don't use this. It was just a brief note. Some people like to use this. I don't recommend you use this at all. Okay, great. Now one final note before I end, and this is applicable to minor scales as well. I've only used major scale examples, but it's also applicable to minor scales. It's the exact same thing. Write the regular minor scale and then just invert it and write out the, just go right to left and write out. Just go backwards, honestly. I'm pretty sure it's fairly intuitive, and write out the descending minor scale. Yeah, you're just going up, now just come back down. Look at the pattern and go back down. Hopefully I've illustrated it enough times. One final note, however, is in the chromatic scale, when we discussed that, we had a rule where if you're going ascending, to use only sharps, and when you're going descending, to use only flats. And that, my friend, is completely incorrect in terms of the major minor scale. I shouldn't say incorrect. That's how you write chromatic scales, but that's not applicable for major minor scales. No, for major minor scales, you write ascending and descending in the same, either sharps or flats, right? So you write ascending or descending either in the same sharps or flats. So there's no difference in the accidentals you use in the ascending or in the descending. So this rule of ascending being sharps and descending being flats is only applicable to the chromatic scale. It is applicable to chromatic scale. Let me make that clear. But it's not applicable to the descending to the major and minor scales. When you write the descending, if you're using sharps and descending, use sharps and descending. If you're writing ascending, use sharps or flats, but it doesn't change, is my point. So this rule of that ascending is sharps and descending is flats is not applicable for a descending major and minor scale. Well, that was kind of a frantic lesson. I should probably planned it out a bit better. But yeah, I just wanted to make it very clear that descending major scales and minor scales do exist, so you can go both up and you can go down. And I wanted to give you some base level insight into how to write them. So once again, you just write the regular ascending major scale using the blueprint we have here, and just then invert that. So go G, and then go G, F sharp, E, D, C, V, A, G, instead of going this goes the opposite direction. Anyways, that's all I really wanted to cover here. As I said, sorry for the frantic nature of this lesson, but yeah, that's all that was really needed to be mentioned here. That being said, hopefully you learned something valuable. Hopefully you enjoyed this lesson quite a bit. And yeah, I will see you next lesson. Wishing you a wonderful rest of the day. Bye.